I don't believe in waste. I do have a kind of Protestant background ethic of being rather, concerned at waste, because it just doesn't seem to be respectful of the world, of the Earth's resources. It's not respectful to Mother Earth. It's not caring for.
But again, waste that implies scarcity, Martin. Again,
no,
it does. Why would you be concerned about any waste at all if you knew there was an abundance of food?
No, because
on the planet to feed everyone ad infinitum. You wouldn't care two hoots.
No, but I think that is totally wrong.
Hang on a second. No, the waste comes.
My view is that even if the planet can give everything that is needed for human society, if individuals, either a group or a nation or a bunch of developed nations, waste, then they can make it very damn hard. Waste. If they,
what do you mean by waste? Produce more than they can consume?
Produce more than they consume,
okay.
So that they devastate the opportunities for others to enjoy the resources which are naturally there. Mm-hmm. I think there is two elements that I think the Earth can sustain, but that doesn't take away from the responsibility on us to act sanely and in a way that allows everyone equal access.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think maybe the production element that you're talking about is based on the consumerist society, as you said, where there is a drive, to sell as much produce as possible to create product and profit and all the rest of it. But let me give you the example of something I mentioned, I think earlier, before we started this conversation. There's a fabulous series of books written by a Russian guy called Vladimir Maigret, and the first volume is called Anastasia. And there are 13 volumes in all, and he talks about various different things. I won't go into the books in detail. I mean, they start in sort of like a fable, if you like, about this woman who's a very wise being, and etc. But anyway, cut a long story short, what this one of the books says, the basic premise is that if you gave everyone on the planet, right, we gave everyone on the planet a hectare of land, right, for them to cultivate, be responsible for, have, not necessarily ownership, it could be stewardship, but, to have that area of land. And in fact, they've done this in Russia, and in fact, there are some eco communities as well in this country, which I haven't looked into, but a similar process, right? Not only would those people be self-sufficient, they would grow more than enough to pass on, to give to others. In fact, some percentage was quoted, something like 70% surplus, whatever that means. But, and it could be a lot more. Now, of course, the difficulty is starting, and you've got to start, and you've got to allow for time for the trees and the fruit trees and the vegetables to grow, etc., etc. This is all growing stuff, by the way. There are no cows or sheep or any animals that we might choose to eat, right? So this is the basic premise. Now, the whole point of this is that is not only self-sufficiency, but abundance, because we are creating abundance through the growing of our own fruit produce. And let's face it, for one family with a hectare of land, if you can imagine that, let's say an acre of land with totally fertilized, or not fertilized in the traditional sense, I don't mean chemical fertilization, but in fertile soil, with fruit trees, with the vegetables, whatever you choose to grow, those vegetables are going to produce more than enough to sustain, that family of 3 or 4, and so on and so forth. And that's how, we have a fair, or one way, let's say, where we have a fair and equal society, a fair and equal world where there is no poverty. There cannot be poverty. Why? Because even the guys starting out from scratch, they're living in a community. This is a community. This is not one person with his own acre of land in northern Siberia, miles from anywhere, right? it's a whole community where the whole point is that all the surplus vegetables, all the surplus fruit goes into the communal pot, if you like. Now, there may be bartering, they may exchange money for it, but, you know, if you believe, as I do, that one day will come where we will live in a world where there is no money, there may be a bartering system, there may be some other means of exchange, I don't know what, but I think that will come, then this is the perfect example of how it can work.
Well, I'm not sure it's a perfect example, it's a vision. I'm not sure that we've actually ever seen communities like that in any kind of scale or longevity.
I don't think we have. Well, they're just starting.
Well, I don't, you know, it's not. I don't think that's even true. I think there's been lots of attempts to do similar things like that, and I've been part of communities from the '60s that, you know, talked about, you know, an acre for everyone, etc. A couple of useful points on your model. Yeah. That in any type of agrarian situation, you will find that it does actually require involvement of animals, because it's the animals which turn a lot of the stuff that we might not use as food for humans, but which is naturally produced within the same systems, but they turn it back into the fertilization that goes into the thing. So most communities which have had long-term agrarian kind of processes, you find that actually they have a close dependence, and it's a three-way relationship: humans, the land, and the animals. Okay. Now, they didn't necessarily kill those animals. Yeah. In fact, what they would normally do is recognize that the importance of the animals was so valuable to the production of the food grains and the vegetables, that you wouldn't dare kill the animals. You know, in China, there was a law for 1700 years that you would never kill a cow. You know, you kind of think that India is a place with sacred cows, but China had it, not for any kind of religious, spiritual, or ethical reason.
So what made them change?
They just lost it and thought that actually maybe you start to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Yeah. You know, you think that the goose is more valuable to you because I can eat it, but you lose the eggs. Yeah. So, you know, good kind of agrarian kind of communities have that. They're actually animal based. Okay. You know, so that's all part of it. Now, obviously, in kind of if you're sharing out the planet's resources and land, you know, every hectare isn't quite the same. You know, a hectare on the hills of Torry Foyle here is not the same as, you know, a hectare in, you know, your leafy Worcestershire, you know, in terms of its production, and therefore there needs to be cooperation. I'm not actually particularly against the concept that some people like farming and are good at it, and you know, they can have my hectares. I'm not really worried that I have to have those hectares myself. Mm-hmm. Providing that we have an actual sane relationship where whatever my occupation is, I'm behaving responsibly to the whole, and whatever the farmers are doing is responsible to the whole. But we're putting pressure on our farmers to do things which are against everybody's interests. We're forcing them to try and produce more from less land, to do it with chemicals, to do it with things that kill the ecosystem. You know, we're impoverishing the land just so they can produce things at a price that I'm willing to pay, because I want to use the rest of my disposable income to buy fancy goods from abroad.